videos is how to use Regigigas. Now, Regigigas, besides having one of the sickest cries in the game, is also going to be a very interesting Pokemon to talk about because of its base stat total. Somehow, it has a 670 base stat total, yet it is usable in VGC. It's not a restricted legendary Pokemon, which is actually really crazy to think about it when you look at those stats. 110 on the hit points, 160 on the attack, 110 on defense, 110 special defense, and 100 on the speed. The 80 special attack, since we're not using it, we don't really care about it, and that just means we get good stats elsewhere. So Regigigas can be a very powerful Pokemon. Other than that, it's just a normal typing, so a very consistent typing. We're not going to have too much offensive prowess. We're not going to be like hitting super effective hits or getting remarkable stab, but it means we aren't going to have to worry about much either. That if we stay away from fighting type attacks, that's kind of it, and then we kind of win, which is pretty solid. Other than that, we are kind of blocked out offensively by rock and steel typings, but then we don't have to worry about any hits from Ghost, and that's kind of all there is to the normal typing. So hopping into Pokemon Showdown, we're getting right into Regigigas, because we can't talk about the stats and not mention Slow Start. On switching, this Pokemon's attack and speed are halved for 5 turns. Now here's the weird thing about having a stat. Now if we look at this right here, that's going to be 419, and say if we have like Adamant Nature, so we're like maxing out stuff, 460. So we're only halving that down to 230, which means we're not going to have like a direct 80 base attack like you might think. So let's go and look for a Pokemon with a base 80 and anything. Let's just go for defense in this case. So say we have a Bold Nature or any kind of base 80 stat, that's going to be 284. So when we're having it, we're actually dropping on a max scale a little less than that, and if we're going complete neutral on it, then that means we're going to be at 149 compared to 356. So if we're not investing it, the halving doesn't hurt us too much. If we are investing into it, the halving is going to hurt us quite a bit. So that's just kind of how the slow start works. Same with speed, but I mean, if we're only playing the 100 base speed game as a tank, having the speed doesn't really matter too much either. Now here's the weird thing that I don't understand. Regigigas isn't even used that much, and I don't know why. Because, okay, slow start, like it's pretty much, you don't even consider this ability. I don't think the slow start is much of a handicap at all because of these stats. 110 hit points, 110 on the defenses. This Pokemon is super duper bulky, and with the normal typing, you aren't getting resist, so it does make it a bit difficult to set up in some situations. But again, if you're not dealing with any fighting type moves, you're just going to be a ridiculously tanky Pokemon, so it's kind of like just a Pokemon with no ability. Now the problem is Regigigas doesn't have many workarounds because it's a very interesting Pokemon. One of the very, very few Pokemon that doesn't learn Protect or Rest. So we were thinking, like I was thinking, okay, Chesto Resto, what about that? You actually don't get access to Rest because that kind of contradicts your slow start. Same with Protect. If you had Protect, well then you're only going to be able to have slow start active for like 2 turns, and then that's really not much. You protect, you attack, you protect, you attack, you protect, and then slow start wears off, and now you're ready to rip people apart. So that could be a bit of a problem, and that's why we don't see Regigigas too much, is because it just doesn't have the sustain, even though it does have like a lot of really good options. That technically we can just like rock polish and try to stall it out with like power up punch and a drain punch and then a coverage move. Like that could work pretty well on Regigigas. So say we look for something like a high amount of tankiness, so with the max investment in hit points, we're going to be pretty solid, and then that's where things get interesting. With the slow start, we use rock polish, then we're only at 236, but even then if we like max out and go like Jolly Nature or something, we're cutting our attack. So really, you just have to try to find a way around those 5 turns of setup, then after that you win, but you don't have any aspects to stall. You can't protect it, you can't rest it, you just don't have sustain to get through it. So you just have to hope your setup works through all of your tankiness, which is why I feel you might as well just invest with high amounts of defenses and stuff, like full tank. So maybe something on the lines like 200 defense investment, rest into special defense, and then maybe a special defense nature like Careful. Or we could go for full physical defense and go for the Impish Nature with just a little bit of special defense, that way you can survive hits. So you might want to play around with the numbers to find something you're comfortable with for your team, and really the best thing you're going to want to do is like status your opponents and really work it into your favor, which is also what Regigigas can do. So if Regigigas wants to get really serious, that's why we have access to moves like Thunder Wave, that we can try to cheese out some time, that we can buy ourselves some time with this. We go Thunder Wave into Confuse Ray, and now we're actually getting into something really funny here. We use Thunder Wave. Now, depending on how fast the opponent's Pokemon is, we're most likely going to outspeed them unless they're breaking like 400 base speed, even with our slow start. So we Thunder Wave them, boom, now our speed is on an even playing field. We Confuse Ray them, and now if they hit themselves or something, we're buying ourselves time. That's where we can go into something like a Power Punch, and that way we're going to be able to catch up our attack. So even though we're not investing into our attack, we land 1 or 2 Power Punches while they're Thunder Waved or Confused, and then we can go for a Drain Punch, and that's going to be our sustain. Now, here's where some more problems come into play. Obviously, we're not going to be doing much damage like this. That Power Punch, that's fine for low base power. Drain Punch, that's fine for that low base power. And against Ghost-type Pokemon, we don't have any options against them. So that's why we have to kind of consider, well, Drain Punch, that's almost a necessity. You know, if we can Thunder Wave, Confuse Ray, Power Punch, Drain Punch, and then we can survive with enough health back to where once our slow start wears off, now we're dealing with 500 attack. Now we're dealing with more attack depending on how many power punches we got. And even then, like a +0 Drain Punch with only 356 isn't going to do too much. Same if we had like returns. Like say we just went return Drain Punch. It's really not going to give us too much. So that's going to be a big problem right there. But really the best way of running Regigigas is just as a huge troll Pokemon. Then if you also have your opponent maybe asleep, that way you can maybe switch in Regigigas on a sleep Pokemon. Try to set up that way. If they wake up, there's a Confuse Ray and a Thunder Wave waiting for them. But I feel like you need the Power Up Punch to really get the most out of it. As for item, Leftovers works. Citrus Berry could work. It's a tough call because Regigigas wants to be on the field for 5 turns until it starts really getting going. With Leftovers, you're going to have 5/16 or over a quarter of your health. With a Citrus Berry, you're going to get only a quarter of your health back, and that's it. However, with the Citrus Berry, it might be enough to let you survive that extra attack. Say Thunder Wave, then they hit you. Confuse Ray, then they hit you. You know, that 3rd or 4th turn where you can get all that health back from the Citrus Berry while you're setting up it's the Power Punch for the Drain Punch. That could really mean something. So that's kind of what it is with Regigigas. The only other thing, I guess, is that you can go with an attack nature and just kind of wait it out by going for Rock Slide. So you Thunder Wave, Confuse Ray, and then Rock Slide. So it's 30% chance, 25% chance, and 50% chance. And then once you have the slow start wear off, I guess it doesn't matter too much about the Power Punch at that rate, because then your Drain Punch is 460 attacks. You're going to be able to get that health back pretty reliably. So you get enough health back to throw out the Thunder Wave, and then you just kind of keep making sure that you're outspeeding the opponent. Other than that, maybe if you don't want to go for the Rock Slide, if you want to keep Power Punch, I was thinking even the idea of the King's Rock. King's Rock gives you a 10% chance to flinch on top of it, so it's 50, 25, and then 10% on the Power Punch, and that could be pretty hilarious, especially for like you Power Punch and Drain Punch, you might find a flinch in that regard. So, I mean, if we're playing full hacks, you might as well go for it. Maybe instead of King's Rock, run a Bright Powder. Bright Powder means that like there's that 10% chance that you could just win the game off of that. So that is something to consider if you're really going for the hard stall. Does make it a bit cheesier, does make it a bit riskier by taking away 25% of your hit points, the effective hit points we've got from the Citrus Berry. But you can do this, and it could be very, very, very funny, and that'd be the best. You know, you get the Thunder Wave, and then they end up missing, and then you hex them out into a victory with Regigigas. I might consider this for an upcoming video now that I think about it. Now, other things you can do for Regigigas is I was thinking that we just go for like Assault Vest, full defensive bulk with a Power Punch. That the great synergy right here exists between Assault Vest and Power Punch. While you're running Assault Vest, you get Power Punch, and now you can boost your stats while still applying Assault Vest, and then you just max out your defense. Maybe a very small amount of special defensive investment. For the most part, I was just thinking Impish Nature once again. That way, you know, we boost once or twice with the Assault Vest, we go into Drain Punch, and that actually leaves us with some extra coverage options while we're healing and while we're trying to get our slow start to wear off. Once it wears off, now we're still doing serious amounts of damage, and through the sustain and not taking any damage, we might have something here. So moves to consider, Avalanche. Avalanche is going to make it to where your power doubles if you're damaged by the target first. Under your slow start, you go Power Punch into an Avalanche. Even with the attack cut, you're still doing a lot of damage against Flying type and Dragon type Pokemon, and then we can just go with Return. Something like that is going to give us a very high amount of damage, because 102 base power getting Stab can be really nice. So that's kind of what we're considering here. It's pretty much like Power Up Punch into trying to survive. If your opponent is trying to go for some kind of stall and tanky setup, as long as it's not Toxic Stall, you might be able to get through it just a bit. The idea is just buying Regigigas time. So Power Punch, Drain Punch, Sustain, and just being too tanky to knock out. So stay away from fighting types, and maybe you might make something work off of this. Other than that, why not Scolipede? Scolipede is a very scary Pokemon because it has Speed Boost and Baton Pass. So if Regigigas' problems are low attack and low speed for the first couple of turns, if we Baton Pass and then Speed Boost it, it really doesn't matter anymore, and we can also use Swords Dance. So we set up our Baton Pass, or we set up Swords Dance, we get our Speed Boost, we might have a substitute depending on what Scolipede is setting up against. You know, Scolipede's a great lead Pokemon. They're really greedy, and they want Stealth Rocks, they want status on the lead Pokemon. That means you get a free Baton Pass and whatever, and potentially a free substitute. And the worst case scenario, that just means Regigigas is going to win right there. So now you're coming in with natural 100 stats and whatnot. I mean, we could just run speed and attack. Jolly Nature would be your best right here, because now we're going to have 328 until the slow start wears off, which does outspeed, and then when it does wear off, we're just going to be blowing things up. After this, we still have Drain Punch, so we're going to either outspeed or not. We use Drain Punch. Our attack is going to still be around 400, maybe a little more depending, and then we just go for the win. Other than that, Life Orb is going to be a pretty good option here. A little bit of extra damage while we're setting up isn't going to hurt. As long as we're using Drain Punch and like trying to get into some good momentum, we're going to be just fine. Other than that, Regigigas has some really great coverage that we get all of the elemental punches. So that's going to be Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Fire Punch. We also get Knockoff. Knockoff is a very powerful move as well. Heavy Slam can be some good damage with the steel coverage. So we do have some really good options right here. And even then, we can look at the doubles. So we just have Skill Swap. Skill Swap, I've seen any kind of Skill Swap Pokemon. You Skill Swap it onto Regigigas. Now, it gets a better ability, and it's immediately going to take off and start winning the battle. And then you Skill Swap Slow Start onto your opponent, and they could lose a lot of damage. It is a couple turns of setup, but Smeargle is a very powerful Pokemon for it. You use Dark Void, you go Skill Swap, and then one thing I've even seen, we saw this on Fan Fridays, Transform. Transforming into the Regigigas after even more setup is one of the silliest things I've seen, but it works out really well. So somehow if you get to the ultimate late game of double Regigigas without any kind, because you're going to copy the ability as well, and that means you're copying the non-slow start that Regigigas now has. It's really silly what you can do with this. That just kind of shows. Now, Regigigas, it goes for its power punches, it goes into ultimate return damage, and it gets that on effectively turn 2, but it can be a turn 1 thing depending on the skill swap you're going for. Just have a faster Pokemon with skill swap. Now, Regigigas is using that full 160 attack, and then it has better speed on the next turn, which you can also work out with as well. So that's Regigigas. A lot of weird potential that if you play Super Trolley, you might be able to get through the slow start, and then your opponent has nothing to do against you, and you can still try to work around the tankiness, but also the way I see it is just look at it as a very tanky Pokemon. Over 100 in all the defensive stats. That's still going to be a couple turns worth of really strong damage and really powerful hits, even though you have to kind of build up into it, and if Regigigas survives that, it's going to be a pretty solid game. So, very interesting Pokemon, very weird Pokemon to talk about. It does have a good amount of power, it does have some hidden power, and with enough strategy around it and augmenting its abilities and whatnot, just doing all sorts of weird, corrupted things to Regigigas, you're going to find a win. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I want to see some Regigigas action right now. I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.
You want to see what's right for you. With a personalized feed, you do.
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and it's how to use Mr. Mime. So, Mr. Mime's stats are pretty weird, because you look at it and it's like, awesome, we have a good amount of special defense, actually really good special defense, we have good special attack, okay speed, and then it just drops off from there. The defense is bad, the attack is pitiful, and the hit points, you can't even do anything with 40 hit points. Like, it's really what's holding Mr. Mime back, which is unfortunate. So look how happy that guy is. And then we have Psychic Fairy typing. That's also pretty crazy that you do trade out that weakness to Dark, and you get Poison, Ghost, and Steel weaknesses, immunity to Dragon, resistances to Fighting, and Psychic. Just an interesting setup over there, and let's hop into Pokemon Showdown, where we kind of find out how this works out, and really, it wouldn't be Mr. Mime without Encore. You're not performing, you're not locking your opponent into some move that they don't want to be locked into. So here's what one of the main setups is, you want to go Encore, and then you can Calm Mind set up and go for Baton Pass. And if you don't have Baton Pass in mind, you have a good amount of damage with Dazzling Gleam. Your ability Filter makes it to where you take less damage, and Leftovers is going to give you a bit of sustain. So overall, like, Mr. Mime has it. Like, if it wasn't just for those hit points, it would be a lot more usable. Like, even with max investment, you're not even breaking 300. Some Pokemon don't even need to invest and they break 300, and that's just bad for Mr. Mime. So what I was thinking is you go with that bold nature, you max out the defense, max out the hit points, and then your special defense gets carried over by Calm Mind. And you do have a somewhat reliable way of baton passing it off. If you Encore them into something that they don't want to be stuck into, you get some free setup, and then you can baton pass it off. So it can work out for Mr. Mime. And then we also have this idea I was thinking about, like, what about Technician? Like a Technician tank. We still go with the hit point defense and investment with the special defense not really being taken care of. Then we go Calm Mind, Charge Beam, Hidden Power. Hidden Power gets a Technician boost, and so does Charge Beam. So with that, we could get Hidden Power Fire. That's pretty a common one. Also, Hidden Power Ice, one of those. And with Charge Beam, you're going to have like an interesting level of boost and damage. You Calm Mind twice, you get a Charge Beam, you go into Hidden Power, that's going to be some damage, and Dazzling Gleam. I don't know, guys. Mr. Mime doesn't have a lot to work with. I'm trying here. I want to make that Technician work. But it is really nice because with the Hidden Power, it's kind of like having a base power 90 of whatever move you want. So that could be pretty neat. Alright, so Mr. Mime can also be used in doubles. That Teeter Dance is a very strong move that I feel is overlooked, that confuses adjacent Pokemon. So it does confuse your ally, but if you have an ally that has an own tempo ability, can confuse both of your opponent's Pokemon and have a lot of other options from there. That has Quick Guard, Wide Guard, Power Split. Power Split could be pretty nice if you average out those attack stats of a strong Pokemon. That could be pretty funny. Quick Guard is always useful. Wide Guard can be useful to shut your opponent out. You also have the opportunity to use Encore, and I do like the idea of Teeter Dance setup, so Mr. Mime can do that in doubles. You might want to don't run this exact set, but you can mix and match, try to pick out what your team needs. If you want a Quick Guard to keep you from those priorities, if you feel that Power Split isn't needed, you can go with something else, and you probably need an offensive move. Dazzling Gleam hits both opponents, so that could work out as well. And then I was also looking into, Technician Choice Scarf Mr. Mime, that it's going to be Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, and the Hidden Power of your choice pretty much, and you can run that with a not actually full speed investment, that you can go with the Moss Nature, so you have a lot of special attack, you have a lot of stab, and you're going to get a good amount of speed from your Scarf. So with the Technician, it's going to give you that rounded out coverage that you need. And I think that's pretty much what you can do with Mr. Mime. Dawn Pass, some kind of crazy stat-up tank that's really absurd, but kind of awesome. And also, it has Barrier. Mr. Mime does have access to Barrier, which could be good for boosting your defenses as well. Doubles, support, and then just, screw it. Choice Scarf. Go knock out some things with Technician and Hidden Power Ice or Fire. So if you guys enjoyed the video, not much to work with, but that's how you use Mr. Mime.
Still looking for a new job?
Just found out my dad's sister's husband is golfing buddies with the CEO of a great company. So basically, I got the job.
Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlisify, and this is how to use Azumarill. Wait, what? Those stats don't look right. Well, naturally, Azumarill only has 50 base attack, but at the same time, it also has the huge power ability. Pretty much only going to be wanting to use huge power on Azumarill, so after factoring in the EVs and maxing out its investment, it puts you closer to a 149 base attack. Now that means Azumarill is going to be fairly ridiculous because 100 hit points is already very good. For a tanky aspect, 100 is very nice on those hit points. 80 on the defenses means you're going to have some good just bulk and durability overall. So now we're looking at a tanky Pokemon that has ridiculous amounts of attack, and that works out really well. Look at its typing, it's a Fairy Water typing. Fairy Water is fairly interesting because you don't have your Steel weakness anymore. That becomes a neutral hit because of the water. Still weakens Poison, Grass, and Electric, but you do have a lot of resistances, a Dragon immunity. The Fairy typing's strong, the Water typing's strong. Putting them together, you have great stab, you have great durability. The Azumarill comes together and becomes this really amazing Pokemon. So we hop into Pokemon Showdown to figure out how to use Azumarill. First that we're going to be looking at is Belly Drum Azumarill. This is a terrifying Pokemon because it gets set up so quick and it's very reliable. Now what we do is